Good morning and welcome back. If you're just joining in this morning, you're very welcome. So in this session, I'm going to take you through, I suppose, some of the principles of creating, good quality or high quality content. I'm just going to look at the keys that you need if you're creating PowerPoints, even handouts, worksheets, whatever form of content you're creating. I just want to take a look at the key points that you should try your best. Now, again, not always perfect, but we can try to improve the quality of our content. So I'm going to take you through that. Now, again, I'm presenting in Book Creator here. So this is an online book and I'm going to take you through the next page. So if you're looking at creating high quality visual slides, handouts, resources, any kind of material, I'm going to look at the top tips for text, typography, images and layout. And I'm going to walk you through that. Now, at the end of this session as well, I will show you some cheats that make creating really good quality content easy. So if we look at the text there, I suppose it's really important to, think about the type of text that you use, particularly on PowerPoints when they're for screen reading. So for short titles, it's a good idea to use uppercase letters, but then for body of text, always use sentence case, particularly for complete sentences. Ask yourself, and this is the big one for me, and it's something that I really focused in on all of my resources or materials over the last couple of years. Is the text that I'm showing to my learners, is it relevant? Or is it just a filler? And if it's not relevant or they're not learning from it or it doesn't need to be there, take it out. Don't put it there. I suppose I had lovely shiny handouts myself and, they were filled with text. But when I actually went back through them, a lot of the text wasn't relevant. It was just really there as a filler. So when you pair them back, the content that you put in front of your learners becomes much more relevant and, there's much more chance of them reading it or engaging with it. If all of the text that's in front of them is relevant to the topic that they're learning. The big one then, I'd really recommend having a critical friend, a colleague that you can go to proofread or take a look at your resources. It will be best practice to have, a peer to look or have a proofread or try out some of your activities with you. It's really, really useful and an awful lot of learning can take place if you have that professional conversation with your critical friend. So I would really, really recommend that, lots of value and learning come out of those conversations. The key is white space. Just because you have white space on your page, don't try to fill it or on your slide. Let your text breathe. It's really, really important. And to avoid death by PowerPoint, keep your text minimal. It's really, really key. Is it relevant? Is it relevant to the topic that I'm teaching? Does it add something to the visual? Or is it just there as a filler? That to me is really key. I would recommend that for PowerPoint to use 30 point for the size of your font. It just keeps it nice and clear and accessible to all. So that's a quick guide to the text. Next up then is the typography. So basically the type of font that you're using. The general guide for design would be to use your sans serif font. And I've some of them on screen there. So Tahoma, Microsoft Sans Serif, Calibri, Arial. It just means that they don't have the tails on them. On the letters, so it just makes it easier for readers to read. The big thing for me, and I have issues myself with how I look at things and how I read things, and it's something that happens to me every time I look at a menu in a restaurant. Try to be consistent throughout. Limit the number of fonts that you use, and particularly keep them the same size, keep them consistent. It should look clean. Absolutely 100% be creative with your headings, but for the actual content of the text, try to keep it clean and allow your lines of text to breathe. So if it's a sentence, don't have massive big gaps between them, but also don't have them on top of each other. You know, try to kind of make it as easy as possible and as accessible for people, and I suppose, you know, aesthetically pleasing so that it's good on the eye. So there's some of the key things for typography. I've also put Open Dyslexic. It's a type of font. I've put it up there. I have used it. I've spoken to learners that have dyslexia. Some of them like it, some of them don't. So again, everyone's personal preference for different types of fonts are different. You know, it is one of those that's kind of internationally recognized as a good font for learners with dyslexia. But again, from my experience, some learners with dyslexia like it and find that it helps, others don't. So, you know, it really comes back. That's where, you know, a tool like Immersive Reader is really powerful, in the sense that, you know, if you have your content in one font, when a learner opens up the text in Immersive Reader, they have the choice there to change it between 3 different fonts. So that's what makes the power of Immersive Reader really good. So taking a look at images then. When I'm saying to try to avoid overly using commercial stock photos, basically what I'm looking at there is, you know, for example, if you're presenting on preparing for a mock interview, you know, if you have a highly commercialized image on screen, you know, that can kind of, it can make people uncomfortable, you know, if you see, you know, this attractive model in you know, a shiny suit, or, you know, a lovely lady in, you know, a €500 dress. Just be mindful that the images that you present on screen to learners are relevant, you know, that they can relate to them. You know, and if you can't find something, you could always throw in some animals there. The concept is what's important, and does it deliver the message that you're trying to communicate to your learners? And that's what I would always go back to when you're creating your content. You know, sometimes a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that is so true. Try as much as possible to use high resolution images. And before I get off this session, I'm going to show you how to find those high resolution images. So that's really key as well. There's nothing worse than a highly pixelated image showing on screen. You know, it's not easy to kind of concentrate on. Try to avoid using too many images and having your slide kind of covered in different images. It's distracting sometimes. It's really good to use images to look at concepts. So I have one over here that's commonly used by Seth Godin, and he's an author, but basically he uses bats to show perspective. So he has the same picture here, but it's just rotated. So you know, it just shows you how you can look at things a little bit differently. So that's an example there of how to compare and contrast with images. And then the key thing for accessibility, and you'll see that in some of the apps and applications, and it's in PowerPoint, to add alternative text wherever possible. So that just means that a screen reader like Immersive Reader can read out the text that's attached to the image. So for example, if somebody is blind and they can't see the image that's on screen, the screen reader can actually read out the content of the image. Now it's whatever you attach to that image will be read out in text. So when we look at layout, the cheat that I'm going to show you is Designer in PowerPoint. It's hugely powerful. It saves so much time, and you can make, you know, pretty good quality content really quickly, because PowerPoint actually does the work for you. And the key thing to point out there is that Designer is only available in PowerPoint online. It's not actually available in the desktop app. So again, be consistent with your color, go easy on the number of colors that you use. You know, as much as possible, you know, is the color that you're using, is it showing kind of hierarchy and concepts? Is it highlighting something that's important? You know, what's it doing there? Or is it just kind of adding some kind of, you know, aesthetical kind of look to the content that you're creating, but it's important to think about how you're using it and why you're using it. What I'd really recommend is, when you're looking at your PowerPoint or you're designing something, if you visualize a grid on screen and work in that grid, it keeps everything kind of organized and clean, and it's a good way to design something. So if you split your screen into 4, into 6, into 9, that just gives you an idea for placement. Again, with images, sometimes it can look nice and clean if you use a full-size image on screen and then add a line of text to it for the point that you're trying to make with the image. And to make that text, easier to read, if you add a shape, so like a square or a rectangle or a circle behind your text, and then with the fill option, if you set the fill to transparency, you can let some of your background come through, but it just kind of blurs it a little bit so the text is easier to read. So you can also try to add your images which point your learners towards the content or the text that you're trying to get them to pay attention to. So for example, if I put my Bitmoji on screen, if I turned my face looking towards the right and then put the text on the right of the slide, that's what I mean there about directing gaze. Okay, so I suppose this is really important. When it comes to creating content, it's very, very time consuming. Some people enjoy it, some people don't. But it is one step at a time, and nobody is expecting that everything is all shiny, kind of really kind of out there with kind of different tools and hyperlinks and images, but there's so much that you can do, and I think at the moment this is a really good time to look at taking one learning resource or one PowerPoint for one topic and updating that at the moment and going through it with a fine-tooth comb, in the sense that is what I have on screen relevant? Is it clean? Is it accessible? Is it easy to read? Do I have a lot of fillers in there that are not necessary and that are really not adding any value to what I'm teaching? And that's kind of the message that I'm trying to, I suppose, get across here, in the sense that it's one step at a time, it's one resource at a time. There isn't a quick fix for kind of, transforming content or, kind of making things interactive or, highly engaging. It's a slow process, but I think there's a huge opportunity here at the moment to do some work on that and to bring it forward. Now, don't get me wrong, there's some really expert creators of content tuned in here, I'm sure, so I'm not for one second suggesting that the content is poor overall. It's not, but even for me, I still have content that I update, and not for one second is everything that I put out there always perfect, but it's about trying, and I suppose to kind of tap into a question that came up in this morning's session about an app for, I suppose, scanning hard copies of learning resources online. When it comes to that task, I would also look at, for me, if I was doing it myself, I would ask myself, is it necessary for me to have all of these? Do my learners need to have access to all of my handouts, all the resources that I have? I would really go through that and look, are those resources relevant? Is there an easier way for me to do it? Or is there a better way for me to do it? And do that one topic at a time. So that's the book. So I'm going to come back here and I just want to show you in PowerPoint. So I'm going to try and launch this live. It's a new feature in PowerPoint Online. So I have it set there at the moment for anyone. So I'm hoping that you will be able to join. So on another device or in your browser, there is a URL here, ppt.ms/YYFJNM3H. So if you miss that there, the URL is up in the top right hand corner. It's ppt.ms/YYFJNM3H. Or if you have your phone, particularly if you have an iPhone, you can scan this QR code here directly through your camera. I'm going to give people another minute there just to join.
Yeah, just while people are joining, I had one question there. I do smile when I look at it. How can I create an avatar like yours?
My Bitmoji, I love it. Will you just remind me? Don't let me come off this session without explaining that.
Yep.
Okay, so if you can't join, don't worry. You'll be able to see this on screen anyway. So that will be okay. I'll just call it out once more. It's ppt.ms/YYFJNM3H. Okay, so you should notice on your device there that when you join this session, you can react. So you have access to reactions and you also have captions. So if you click on the little smiley face that you see on your device, you're able to react to the PowerPoint that I have on screen here, the slide. So you have options there for a thumbs up, a heart, a big smile, an O, a clapping kind of emoji, or a raised eyebrow look. So I just have different PowerPoint slides here, just a collection of them, and I just want to take a look at them. So what I'm going to ask you to do, if you can go now, click on your smiley face. And I don't want you to look at the actual text content that I have. What I want you to do is think about the design. So is it a good design? Does it keep with the principles that we were talking about earlier in this session? I have a raised eyebrow going up on screen there. For me, this particular slide here, there's an awful lot of text on screen. It's not very easy to read. They kind of, does the car in the background add any value to the learning here? I'm not sure that it does, but it's just something to maybe kind of think about. And I'm going to do this. I've loads of slides and you get to vote on them as I go through. So here's the next one. So this one is proven popular. It hasn't had a raised eyebrow yet. It's nice and clean. I guess that's the key. And then the next slide that's coming up has the exact same content, but it's just presented slightly differently. It's interesting there. This slide got some raised eyebrows, and in comparison to the previous one, so I'll just go back. So there's this, and then there's this one. So the slide with the robot, I actually created yesterday in PowerPoint Online. It probably took me, I would say, 20 seconds max, because all I did was type in types of technology, communications level 4, and PowerPoint Online actually did the rest for me. And I'm going to show you how to do that before the end of this session. This one then, I had the same text, but you can see there I've messed with the formatting of the types of technology, so it's not consistent. And I've brought in some images from the web as well. This one took me a lot longer because I had to go and find the images, and copy and paste them in. So the difference This slide probably took 20, 30 seconds. This slide probably took me 5 or 6 minutes. And I personally prefer the design of this one. Moving on again. So rate this design for me. Well, I'm not getting any claps for this one. I'm getting lots of raised eyebrows. I love it. Okay, point made. I don't think I need to talk about it. Okay, this one. Okay, it's really interesting. I'm getting thumbs ups and I'm getting raised eyebrows and I'm getting claps. Okay, so I'm not going to talk about it yet because I have a comparison slide coming up and it's next. So I just want, it's the same kind of message or same content that I'm trying to communicate to learners. And I just want you to have a look at it and maybe do a comparison for me. So get ready to react. Okay, so with the first slide, there's nothing wrong with the actual design of the slide, really, but for me, if I put myself in the shoes of a learner with this slide, okay, you've given me everything on screen, so I tend to tune out and I tend to daydream. Whereas when we move across to this slide, I don't know what you're going to talk about when you're presenting this. So I have to listen. So that's just kind of two ways of looking at design there. And it's different for different people. You know, I'm not for 1 second suggesting that one is better than the other or one is clearer than the other. It's just something to think about when you're creating your own content. And again, this one was much quicker than this one. So we're back on rating again. You know, this one is pretty clean there. It gives you, as the subject matter expert, as the teacher, an opportunity to, I suppose, talk about the concepts that you've displayed on screen. And that for me is really, really important. You know, if I'm tuning in to listen to somebody, you know, that's my teacher or that's my lecturer or that's a subject matter expert in the particular area that they're teaching, you know, I would much prefer to see the cues on screen and then listen to them talking about it rather than them have a list of bullet points where, you know, kind of realistically we speed read, so we read much quicker than the presenter can actually talk. So for me, it's about really thinking about, you know, what's the purpose of the slide cues that you're putting up on screen, and have a think about that. What's great about it as well is if you go back to a cleaner design, it's much quicker to create the clean content than it is to have slides with lots of text. So here's the same idea, just in a different format. What do you think of this one? Lots of raised eyebrows. Okay, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to move on. This one. Okay, it's mixed coming in on this one. So some hearts, some thumbs up, some smiles, some claps, and some raised eyebrows as well. What about this one? again, interesting. There's an awful lot of text on this screen here at the moment. So as much as possible, I would try to avoid having this much text on screen, you know, particularly if you're presenting it face to face, live. You know, if you're doing a voiceover, you don't need this much text on screen, and I don't think it really adds value to what you're trying to present. But again, it's just my opinion. What about this one? Okay, so in general, the images are clear. You know, there's a good heading there. You know, the text is kind of broken up, so it's not all in the one place. But my observation here is that, you know, there's no order or there's no direction. So if you base kind of your learning of how to give CPR off this visual, you don't have any idea of the order that, you know, you should approach giving CPR. I think there's better ways that you could present this as a visual. So that's just another idea there. What about this one? Yeah, the colors on this one are killing me. The text is really hard to read. You know, the actual text itself, I suppose is pared back, which is good, but the color scheme here is very difficult to read. And definitely a raised eyebrow. Okay, so this is my favorite one for doing something like this, and I'm going to put you through the pain and I'm going to read it out. So most common PowerPoint mistakes. People tend to put every word they are going to say on their PowerPoint slide. Although this eliminates the need to memorize your talk, ultimately this makes your slide crowded, wordy, and boring. You will lose your audience's attention before you even reach the bottom of your slide. Okay, so I'm sorry for putting you through that, but it's just something that's kind of I want to throw out there, you know, for people to have a think about. And in most cases, look, I'm just thinking of the audience that I have. I have expert content creators, but I also have, you know, some people tuning in who may have never made a PowerPoint before. So I'm trying to cover all bases here. But I suppose that's what I want to leave you with on that. Okay, so that's the end of my live PowerPoint. So I'm going to move back across to my main screen so you won't need your device. Okay, so first of all, I want to show you how to use Designer. So I'm just in PowerPoint Online. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead here and try this out. So again, it's PowerPoint for the web app, the online version, not the desktop app. So I'm going to try customer service. Now I haven't practiced this, so I'm just going to chance it. And I'm going to go with QQI level 4. So on the home tab, so on your ribbon menu, on the home tab, there's a little icon over here that has a slide with a lightning bolt on top of it. And when you hover over it, it says Designer. So I'm just going to click on that there. So you'll see that it's generated design ideas for me. So you can scroll through them, and if you don't like any of them, you can click on more. So that's just one example. Let me think of something else. Okay, so you can see that they're nice and clean there. And then one more, and it will do this throughout the entire presentation for you, which is great. So you can scroll down and have a look. The sports ones are not coming up as well, but you can click on more ideas down the bottom to have a look there. Talking about my own consistency here. Okay, so you can see on the right of my window there, I have lots of previews of different ideas, and you can just see more designs. You can click through and it will load more designs for you. So I'm just going to click on this one as an example. So it applies it straight to my slide for me. Then when I go and click on new slide, I'm just going to try title and content and add it in. And then you'll see that it gives me other kind of prompts or ideas over at the side on the right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and type in learning intentions here. So I'm just going to go with this one just to show you, for example, and then you can pop your learning intentions in here. So it's just a really easy way to make, you know, I suppose that content creation a little bit easier without you having to do the design work. I'm not going to do any more, but it automatically gives you different ideas there that you can click on to add to your own PowerPoint slide. So it's a really good cheat if you're looking at creating some PowerPoint resources. Okay. So the last thing that I very quickly, now I'm conscious of time here because I have gone over, but my avatar is basically Bitmoji. So I have it as a Chrome extension as well. So if I click in here, I have tons of images that I can access for my avatar, and you can search for different ones. So teamwork, for example. All I do, if I right click on it, I can choose to save it or copy it. You will need to set up your Bitmoji on your phone, so you can download the app, but once you have an account, you can then add it as a Chrome extension to your browser, and that works in both Chrome and the new Edge Microsoft browser as well. But it's really cool. It's a nice way to kind of, you know, add something to your resources. Any questions there, Yvette?
Yeah, very good question. Kind of PowerPoint already made the imported onto PowerPoint online?
Absolutely. You just drag and drop onto your OneDrive, and then when you click to open it, it automatically opens in PowerPoint Online.
Thank you.
Any other questions coming in?
Not yet. So we'll wait for one or two more.
What I will do is I will pop a link to this book onto the team, so you can refer back to that if you like. And then later this afternoon, again, the recordings for the 2 sessions from this morning will be on the PD team on the stream channel at the top.
No, I don't see any new questions coming in. Just thanks. And some people are heading off to start their lovely Bitmoji journey.
I love it. It's so exciting. I love a Bitmoji. It becomes an addiction. So, you know, just quickly point out there, you can actually change the different outfits that you have as well. You can make them seasonal, or depending if you want to have a sporty look, you can have a sporty look. So have lots of fun with Bitmoji.
Okay, so we're just receiving 1 second. Oh, there's got one question there. What did you use to create the digital book?
The digital book is Book Creator. It's quite easy to use, and actually students can have accounts as well if you would like them to create something for you. I'll pop all the details for that in under this session in the Teams hub. And I suppose just to note on that, for everything that I've shown or used this week, you will find them on that channel. I'm just a little bit behind with popping some stuff up there, but if you bear with me, everything will be there by the end of the week.
And just to recap there in the last session, you used PowerPoint slides on your landing page. How did you set up the hyperlinks?
So yeah, great question, because that's actually so easy, but it's only easy when you know how. When you pop your image in onto PowerPoint, so just copy and paste in your image. If you right click on that image, click on hyperlink, copy and paste in your URL, and then that's it. It's done. It becomes clickable. It becomes an interactive image, which is fantastic. So again, just to recap on that, when your image is in PowerPoint, if you right click on it, click on hyperlink, and then you can add any website address to that to make your image interactive.
Okay, thank you. I'm conscious you have another meeting soon and this has run over, so.
Thank you very much, everybody, for joining in, and have a lovely rest of your week and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Ashley.
Thanks a million, Yvette.